Good evening, one and all. I am Amit Messi with my friend and colleague Asha Dikari. On behalf of Amity University Lucknow campus, welcome you to the webinar Cinematographers and Indian Cinema Trends, Challenges, and Opportunities. It's a great feeling to have attendees from different cities across the country. We are privileged to have our director, Amity School of Communication, Professor Dr. Sanjay Mohanjori with us. Welcome, sir. Cinema in India is among one of the hot topic of discussion along with politics, cricket, and religion. There's a huge fan base who religiously follows actors and directors, but very few understand that there's a big team with their skills working day and night just to paint that film on the big screen. Cinematographers are key people who are involved in weaving of each single shot with their creativity and experience just to make that narrative flow smoothly. Cinematographers can emotionally move us in ways that other medium cannot. And yet the decision behind each shot is still subjective. Just give a script to five filmmakers and you're likely to watch five different films. Now that's what a cinematography does with the story. As quoted by Nicholas Rowe. And later I thought, I can't think how anyone can become a director without learning the craft of cinematography. Now, that's the importance of cinematographer in filmmaking. And to understand the challenges and skill sets to become a great cinematographer, we have a young, dynamic, and award-winning cinematographer, Madhura Palit, with us. And we want to welcome you, Madhura. Can we have a AV for Madhura?
An alumna of the Satyajit Ray Film and Television Institute, Modhura has worked on three feature films, numerous short films, documentaries, and DVCs. She is also a member of the Eastern India Cinematographers Association (EICA) and an alumna of the Asian Film Academy (AFA) Busan. Modhura is the first Indian to receive the very prestigious Pierre Ingenue Special Encouragement Award at Cannes in 2019.
Standing here like this, I'm wearing this sari and representing India, and this image goes out to all those people and all those girls, and they can believe that fairy tales do come true, that if you dream strong enough, if you think it's strong enough, there is a chance of representing India in a global stage and doing the work that you really like from your heart makes it this place, so be it.
Modhura is a huge supporter of independent films. Her filmography truly represents a global tone, and her aspirations are free spirited. We are privileged to have her with us. Modhura Palit, we welcome you.
Thank you, Sonia. And once again, Madhura, welcome to Amity School of Communication, Amity University. I hope you like our welcome. We tried to present it in a different way, like not speaking and just presenting it in your way. We just tried it. I hope you liked it.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a really wonderful AV that you guys, and it was really touching. Thank you so much. I loved it.
It's great to hear that, from a cinematographer without any mistakes. So yeah, okay. So Madhura, with this AV, and we have read a lot about you. We have researched much about you, but I want to hear it from you that how it started, this whole thing, that you're a cinematographer, how it all started, your journey.
My journey kind of started. It's a growing up process, actually, to be honest, because my parents are both art photographers. So I always had this atmosphere of talking about exposure and films and frames and all of that in the house. So I think it was somewhere inbred in me. The germ was already there. But then I went into Xavier's Kolkata, where I did mass comm and video production. And that is where I really kind of decided to do cinematography, because we had this section where we used to do cinematography. We had this old small studio where we used to light up and we used to do small presentations and, shoot sequences and do the lighting practices. And that is where I kind of realized that, this is something I really, really enjoy doing. And I won't really mind doing it for the rest of my life. Like, this is something I would not get tired of doing 24/7. So yes, that is when the decision came to take up cinematography seriously, study about it, take it as a life and take it as a job. So yes, I think you just find that spark somewhere and you suddenly realize this is it. So that happened to me in college.
So that means it started with the in the house only. Since you said your parents were photographers, and I think they were award-winning photographers. I read it somewhere. So
Yes.
it started, yeah. It started at home, and that at Satyajit Ray.
Yeah.
How does this Khan thing happen?
I don't know. That actually happened out of the blue. I didn't know about it. Honestly, I was really surprised. I was in the middle of my shoot, and I got this email from Cannes, and they were like, "You have won this award," and the whole award declaration. And I literally laughed. I showed it to my friend who was a director, and we both kind of laughed. What kind of spam messages are we getting nowadays? Like, people have gone really crazy and really creative with how they can fool us. So I had actually ignored it, and I had like not responded to it. And then I got a call from IWCC, which is the Women Cinematographers Collective. They had contacted them and said that, she's not responding back. What happened? So they told me that please respond, and I was like, this is true. And that is when I got to know about the whole thing, and that is when it happened. It was absolutely out of the blue. I had no idea about it at all, and that the fact that I was in competition with a lot of globally practicing cinematographers, and that they had finally selected me for the award. So yes, it was a surprise, absolute surprise.
Wow, great, great. I can
Okay,
just imagine, and it's so good to hear it. Like, bas ho gaya, and it was you thought it was a mock. Somebody's mocking at you. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really funny. Yeah. Yes,
okay,
Amit, I'm sorry, I interrupted.
Modra, coming to Indian cinema and cinematography,
Mhm.
as we know that talking about Indian cinema, we have seen a lot of advancement in cinematography as far as technological front are concerned, or even aesthetics are concerned. Now, I just want to know from you that how you see it, how you see this evolution in Indian cinema as far as cinematography is concerned. Like, we want to get your take on how cinematography has evolved in Indian cinema in recent past.
See, when we talk about the development of cinematography, we have to understand that as a process, as a craft, it has been evolving for the last 100 years, and it will keep on evolving every single day as we know it. Because cinematography as a craft, if we talk about, as an art form, if we talk about, then it incorporates a lot of things. There is just not only the technological advancements, but also people's way of seeing things, also the socio-political situation where we function in the psyche of the people at that point of time. So how a film would get shot 50 years before is very different to how it gets shot now. And that has a lot to do with not only the technological advancement, but also the type of stories that are being told right now, the understanding and the aesthetics and the politics and the poetics of the image making and the script level that we talk about. So when we talk about this changing trend or this evolvement of cinematography per se, we have to talk very globally, because what has happened that nowadays, because the spurt of technology that we have and the whole world is now connected, we are a global community.
Yeah.
So it is what happens in Spain kind of dictates to what happens in Kolkata, and what happens in Kolkata might dictate something which happens in somewhere far off in Africa. It's the whole understanding and looking at films, looking at images in ways that has changed. The way of telling stories have changed. The way of looking at films have changed. So, and these advancements would only continue and would grow and evolve and change as the world progresses, as the world changes. And I don't know, I have a feeling that, I don't know, maybe 100 years later, we would be back to films, and we would be back to analog, and we would be back to where we had started, because we would be going back to the absolute organicity of image making process as we know of it. So yes, it has a drastic change, and it will continue to change for a long time to come.
It was nice to hear from you that we'll go back to reels and we'll go back to analog. These days, budding filmmakers, they are not aware about it. Okay, Madhura, coming to this perception as far as cinematographers are concerned. Okay, so there is a certain kind of perception for cinematographers, like These are people who just handle the camera, or like they are having a strong build, handling and different situations, tough and challenging environments. But we understand, like we who follow film, we who teach film, we understand that cinematography is something more than handling camera. Okay, it requires creativity, the application of ideas which actually coming from the brain. Okay, so I just want you to touch on that. Okay, because this perception about cinematography is that it is only about handling camera or the technology, the technical part of camera. It is more than that. Maybe you
Yeah,
can
absolutely.
touch on that.
It is. It is. The thing is, why cinematography is always perceived that way? It is, I think, because in an audiovisual medium, it is one of the most strongest sensations that you see. Like you get in anything you start watching, it's the first thing that you look into it, and that is why I think cinematography has certain perception, because it's so visual, it's so much there, it's so tangible in a sense. But honestly, cinematography as a vocation or as a department is one of the most critical, and it's one of the most diversive branches in filmmaking process, because it is just not about the what you shoot. It is about understanding the aesthetics of your film. It is about understanding the economics of your film. It is about understanding the psyche of your film, and also having your own. You have to understand the director, and you have to also put in your creativity and your understanding of a script into it. So it blends in aesthetics, technological knowledge, and also the economics of a filmmaking craft, because you have to understand in any process of filmmaking, cinematography as a chunk takes away most of your economics, that the
Yeah.
whole economics is actually kind of dependent on how you do the cinematography of it. So you have to take that also in mind. And so hence when we talk about cinematography, it's not just having a camera and you're pressing the record button. There is so much more into it. That starts from understanding the script, translating a written text into a visual metaphor. That is the first thing that you do. And then comes understanding the logistics of how you're working it is. Like where you're shooting, in which conditions you're shooting, what is the manpower you're handling. You have a lot of manpower handling also to do. Then you understand the technological aspect of it, that what I'm shooting on and why does it happen, why I'm shooting on, because you have to understand where is my end product going to be. So if it's a web, you have a different approach. If it's a film, you have a different approach. If it's a YouTube thing or something else, if it's a advertisement, you approach in a different way. So end product dictates how you decide on the beginning technological decisions that you take. And while you do all of that, then you come on floor. And that is when you start deciding on creating this false geography, this false world, and make it real to the people who are watching it. So and you coordinate with the art, the production, the costume, and together with these branches also, cinematography tries to create this make-believe world which seems absolute real when there isn't any. So it's just not only you. Cinematographers is kind of, they play God. You know, if I'm very egoistical in saying that, but you're actually kind of playing God, because you're creating a world which is not there, and you're also translating someone's vision, which they are seeing in their mind, into a tangible thing. So you're actually converting an intangibility to a tangible idea. And you're creating something which doesn't exist anywhere onto something that hundreds of people would believe and relate to. So and on top of all of this, if you're left with something within you, then you add on to your understanding of the script and your aesthetics of it, and you try to transcend it. The director would always give you a vision. But when a cinematographer comes on board, they are just not the technical person. It is just not your responsibility to shoot it and translate it. Your responsibility is also add on to it and transcend it to maybe something better, or to help in making that certain visual become so real that you don't have a doubt of questioning its existence.
Yeah, you have given a very perfect metaphor to the cinematographers as God. Okay, so a lot of God are there listening to us. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, yes,
I
because
have
we
a
literally do that when you walk into a, when we are shooting on live locations, a different thing. But when you walk into a set, you have to understand that you walk into a black box and you have it in your hand to create it to be a, Rajasthan day or a Norway morning.
Yeah.
Or maybe a morning in the Darjeelings, so you have that power to translate a black space into something which is so not. So that gives you that idea of creating something out of pitch black.
Yes.
Madhura, I also have one question which is related to perception. And I'll just give you, before I ask the question, I'll just quote something from my classroom. In my classroom, I was taking this direction class, and I asked one of my student, a girl student, girl here. So I asked her to pick the camera and start shooting. So a boy came and he said कि अरे मैम ये कैमरा उठा भी पाएगी, इसको देखा है आपने? And he took the camera from her and he started doing the whole thing. It really bothers me. It really, really bothers me. And it bothers me when someone says a female cinematographer. A cinematographer is a cinematographer. So what do you have to say to this particular stereotypical thinking? She's a female cinematographer, or also, stereotyping this particular profile to males. So what do you have to say? I mean, have you also faced this?
Yeah, I have obviously faced this because this is one of the most idiotical things and perceptions which is there. I don't understand why don't you call them cinematographers as male cinematographers? Why is it always female cinematographers? You have to ungender a job. When you talk about doctors and nurses and things like that, you're not saying female nurses and male nurses and things like that. That's a job. Like anything, you have a job and you're doing a certain job. Nobody ever in the world has assigned a job to a certain, gender to be done. So it's a falsity which has been there for such a long time, and it's so much inbred that it's very disturbing in a way. And also the point is, those who don't practice, I don't understand that what is the huge thing of lifting up a camera. Why do you always need to lift up a camera is point one. I am not a pulley. That is not my job to lift up weights. That is not what I'm here to do. Lifting up a camera is a very, very, very technical thing to do. You have a certain technique of lifting up a camera. You just don't pick it up like you pick up a cylinder. And the thing is that you expect women to carry child, which is much heavier than a camera. You expect them to carry waters across villages, and they can walk 30 kilometers walking from one village to the other, carrying water on their head. You expect them to carry cylinders from the basement to the top floor. Then you don't have any problem of carrying weights for women. But just because it's a camera, you think they can't do. And I really have never understood the reason why. And I faced this exact same question that the student in your class did, that can she lift up a camera? I'm like, this is not my job. Point is, do you need your camera to be lifted up? Point one. If you have, then tell me why. If you can explain me that why you need your camera to be lifted up, then I will get your technicalities, and then if you accept, then I will pick up the camera. There is that stereotypes are so inbred and so ingrained. That is the problem of it. And I really, really hope for a certain time to come when we are just looked up as cinematographers and directors of photographies, and not as a woman cinematographer and a male cinematographer, because it's just a job. It's a technical job. A male mind and a female mind who knows the thing would work in the same way. Either you know how to do a lighting, either you're a good cinematographer or you're a bad cinematographer. There is nothing in between called a female and a male cinematographer. It just makes no sense.
Yeah, true that. That means all you need to know is the art, and not you don't need to do that body lifting and all that for this particular job.
Point is, and that is very comical, because right now we spoke about the advancement of technological things. Even if I say that, then boys should never work with drones and boys should never work with Osmos, because they're so light cameras that would definitely hurt their male ego. Then why are you lifting up the lighter cameras? Now you always go lifting up Mitchell's cameras. When there were Mitchell cameras, nobody was lifting up on their shoulders because it was so heavy even for the male to do. How sad for their lives. But now that you have lighter cameras, then the male shouldn't be allowed to touch those. It's as simple. Then segregate. Let's segregate equipment also accordingly to what is a male equipment and what is a female equipment.
Yeah, and still people, it really bothers me as well, because when people come out and say कि tum female cinemat ho or tum male to kya koi nahi kehta, but this female cinematographer hits hard actually. So yeah, thank you, really thank you for pointing it out.
Madhura, there has been a trend in Bollywood. I just wanted to bring this. It is getting so intense. So I just want to bring this also, that we have seen this trend in Bollywood where our directors are trusting or relying like on collaboration with international cinematographers, like people who are working with Hollywood or like or international repute. Like we have seen recently, we have seen this web series Family Man season 2, where we can see that Cameron Bryson has done a great job, has an exceptional job, no doubt with that. But coming to the like Indian cinematographers, why they are not preferred globally or even at national level by our directors over these international or so-called Hollywood cinematographers?
I can be very polite in answering this, or I can be very harsh in answering this, but whatever. Let me just try to put things in perspective. Let me just try to be devil's advocate and talk both sides. See, either it can work in a certain way that, yeah, I like a certain DOP's work better, and he or she happens to reside in not my country. So if say somebody from Sweden calls me, I hope that I can go to a different country and work there, and the same question won't be asked to them, that why are you hiring a camera person from India when we have so many good camera persons in Sweden. So that can be a way. But as with the history of Indian culture, we have this problem of always looking at other countries and finding things better there, from livelihoods to their leaders and their heroes and heroines. Somehow there is this Indian problem of being obsessed with the foreign. So that is one of the reasons, because honestly, India as a whole, we have so many talented DOPs working here. There is actually no dearth of talent, and there is also a huge variety of working styles. You have Goirik, you have if you're talking about the masters, we're talking about Santosh Shivan, and then we have somebody like Sudhir Palsane, then we have Rafe Mahmood, who are very different to each other in their styles and ways of different doing things. So I think A, it can be comfortability, or 2, it can give you that maybe it gives them the tag of I'm having a foreign DOP in my work profile. I really don't know, but I would hope to, and I would feel better if it's the previous notion that I just prefer that person's work and not anything else.
Yes, Asham, you can.
We all are hoping for that, I believe. I have an additional question, maybe related to what you just answered. I just love regional films. I really do. And it's not that I don't love Hindi films, Hindi language film. I love Hindi language films as well. I think we make beautiful films in India. But when it comes to recognizations or sending film to film festivals or, to international platforms, we somehow lack. There's something we are missing. What do you have to say about this particular thing? Do you think it happens?
I think the problem is with us that primarily we have segregated Indian cinema into things called regional and mainstream. I don't understand the idea of who decides what's regional and who decides what's mainstream. There is only Indian cinema in varied languages. There is Malayali films, there is Bengali films, there is Hindi films, and so on and so forth. There is nothing called a regional film, and there is nothing called a mainstream film. We are all Indian films, and which is much larger in the scope of things. Unfortunately, Hindi Bollywood film is that cousin, that NRI returned cousin in our families who always seems to take all the attention. But else than that, there is nothing really, regional and mainstream about filmmakings or films per se. And also, what I think is that we as an audience and as the authorities that we work for, we don't really understand that we need to project our films outside too. films in different countries, they're pushed. The government and the authorities have this responsibility of pushing out their films to the global audience, which we don't do. As I had said earlier also, that we don't really take our serious films very seriously. And
Yes.
that is a problem. We somehow lack to understand that we have the talent, we are making global films, and that should be reaching to a particular audience. And that prerogative again is not only on the filmmakers to have their money spent and sent to different film festivals all over the world. It is also the audience's responsibility to give them that love and spread the word, and talk about it. We are in this space where social media is on a boom. So whatever you have wishing for or talking about, it reaches to different corners of the world that we cannot even perceive. So it is our responsibility too to push that films we want people to see. Like, let's just be very selfish for a second, and let's not even think about that film is going to get an award. It's just a good film, and I want my friend from Zambia to watch it. It's as simple as that. So somehow I believe that it is our fault. We are at fault that we are not sending our films to different places, and we are not identifying the films that needs to be spoken about and needs to be projected to the outside world in the quote unquote category of Indian cinema. The moment we stop looking at things of regional mainstream and looking at just good cinema and bad cinema, I think we would appreciate films more and try to send it more outside. It is everybody's responsibility.
Yes.
I have taken that note. From next time, I'm not going to use this regional thing. So I have taken that note from you. Yeah. Amazing.
Madhura,
Sorry.
coming to this technological advancement, like you were talking about the lightweight cameras. Like today, we have this technology where we can use like our mobile phones. When you talk about iPhones, like you can shoot films from that also. Now, being in a country where like people are not ready to pay or invest like huge amount, but then they expect a good quality of production. Like for example, no one, like you said, I think somewhere, that no one is bothered about what was the budget, what was the situation. They only see the final product, which is a film. So no one is talking about ye kam budget ki film thi, or like the situation were very adverse. So working in this situation, like where people are not ready to invest in cinematography, then you talk about the production of the film, but they expect a good result as a film. And if they compare their film like with other also, like in which the budget was high. So as a cinematographer, it's a big challenge. It's a big challenge for you. How you cope up with that challenge?
See, this is a challenge I think every filmmaker faces all the time. There is always no budget for your film, but it always should look like a quality of winning an Oscar. That is a standard requirement of any producer. So then I always believe that no matter whatever is the real economy of your film that you're shooting on, it should always look at least 10% more expensive, or at least it should not expose the amount of money that has been spent. It shouldn't look like कि 10 रुपए का production था वो तो दिख रहा है. That should not always there. It might not look like a Sanjay Leela Bhansali production, but it should not look like that you're in a dire need of a camera and you just borrowed from a friend and you just somehow went and shot. I think that is where the technical knowledge of a DOP comes into place, because with this plethora of low budget yet high output cameras that come, and they have come with their own idiosyncrasies and own problems also. So once you get to understand how these DSLR cine cameras, quote unquote, how do they function, what is their particular pros and cons, you can actually get away with shooting a film which is much lesser in budget but gives you a good output. And that is completely the technical understanding of the DOP. So how will my 5D Mark IV function, and how will my A7S II function, and how will my iPhone function? That I really have to understand so as to give that image that you're looking for. Because all three cameras are very good, but all three cameras claim to be 4Ks and claim to be 5Ks and 8Ks. But how much of reality they're giving out of it? What is the sensor? What is the color space that we're functioning on? That is when these kind of technical knowledge starts coming in handy. And it is As a cinematographer, you have to take that decision. You have to understand that this is my raw material and this is what I have. And this, if I shoot it in this way and I push my workflow and post-production a certain way, this will give a C image. So yes, I think this is the decisions where it actually shows that how much the grasp of the technological knowledge does the DOP have. Because if you have that, you can actually get away with it in a very smart way.
True. Thank you. Thank you. This is a question which comes to, I think, all the budding filmmakers, which you just answered, that, we don't have a high-end cameras. We don't have that much of budget to how to shoot. So that is also one thing. So, since there are now film festivals which are accepting films from mobile filmography and all that. So I think this is the answer for that particular thing also. You need to understand how to shoot. What is there?
Definitely. Because see, thing is that nowadays how the film that we're talking about and how the industry functions in India, having a huge budget and having the equipment that you really can afford is actually a luxury, which most people don't have. And we are in this part of indie world right now where films are being made independently in an indie setup with very low-end cameras and low-end things. So the idea is now to be very, very, very smart to understand what your camera can actually give out. Having a high-end product out of a seemingly low camera is not that difficult if you really know the technical aspects of it. There are few tricks in the trade that if you just follow, you can understand that what is the sensor size? What is the sensor size in compared to the resolution? What is the sensor size in compared to the resolution? What is the bit? What is the color space? Now that if you put all of this together, you get an overall image and overall idea that what is the output this particular camera is going to give you. And then you can actually go about and shoot without almost any resources. Making up a light fixture at home with 4 or 5 bulbs is not so difficult. It is now more about, understanding cinematography technically and application of it creatively is where is going to, is a winner for you right now.
Yeah.
And the more you practice that, it gets better and better and better.
I think it was very productive for the students who have joined.
And I recently saw one movie of Madhura. It's called Paperboy.
Yeah.
And after I saw the movie, it's a beautiful movie, black and white movie, and beautiful. It's a 15-minute short film, I believe, and a beautiful film. If you see that film, you will understand what she just said. It's the beauty which is created. You'll understand that. And after I saw the movie, I read about it. And I think it is Madhura or the director, Aniket or Ankit. I'm sorry, I just forgot his name.
Aniket, yes. Aniket Mitra.
Yeah, he said in an interview that I sat with my cinemat, Madhura, and all we had was a bulb. All we had was a script and a bulb. Something like this, he said. This is all we had. And we knew that we are going to make this film. We have to make this film. And it is such a beauty. Thank you for creating that beauty, Madhura. It's beautiful film.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes, actually, it has happened to me because people call me an indie DOP, and that is, I don't blame it and I don't mind it also, because truthfully, a lot of projects that I have done and I have worked with actually natural light fixtures. So if I'm walking into a set, apparently I am just carrying 4 bulbs and 5 tube lights, and that is all that I have, and just my camera and the set lens. So yes, it is like that, and it gives you that freedom also. I think that if you actually don't have the dream equipment you have, you actually can kind of go crazy, and that is when you can applicate whatever little knowledge that you have to the best way possible. I love the challenges that comes.
Madhura, we are having questions in our chat box, so we'll go to that one by one. Adnan Ahmed is there, and he's asking this particular question: how can one realize that he got the eyes of cinematographer? What elements one should inculcate to become a cinematographer desired by industry? So basically, he's asking like how a person can realize that he's having that thing in him or in her.
I don't know yeah, I think it should come from your within that yes, I can do this. I think a cinematographer feels that I'm a cinematographer when you're really confident with what you're doing, when you're really happy with how you're seeing the images. If you can translate what is happening in your head and you can look at it and say कि yeah ये मैंने तो यही चाह रहा था and मैंने कर दिया वो जो था at least close by 90% तो कर दिया. I think then you're hitting it. But else than that, I really don't know how to become a DOP and how do you realize that? It is just, I think, by the process and you have to ask your friends. But yeah, I think one of the best ways to know that if you have done the work that you wanted to do is to understand in what situation you have done the work and have you given your 100% it or not. And then you see what it has finally translated on screen and you do a self-reflect and you understand that ओके ये मैं करना चाह रहा था ये हुआ नहीं है लेकिन एटलीस्ट चलो 80% तो कर लिया तो अभी नेक्स्ट टाइम जब करेंगे तो ये चेंज कर सकते हैं तो फिर शायद मुझे वो 100% मिल जाए. I think cinematography more than anything else is a self practice, it's a self reflective profession. It's actually a very philosophical profession, honestly, in a way.
True. I think when you start thinking that I just want to go to office, I just want to do this every time, 24/7, I want to do this. That's the time that you realize, yeah, ye mere liye hai. And this is, I think, what Madhura said in the beginning. Ki when I entered, I knew that I have to do something like this. And when I entered SRFTII, I realized that that's it. Ye to karna hi hai. So it will happen to you eventually. You will realize. Okay. Thank you, Madhura. I think we have a next question from Vaishnavi Nishad. She's asking why India is not successful in making sci-fi films.
I don't know why is it not. I think the problem where India lacks, even though actually India doesn't lack weirdly because we outsource all our VFX to Hollywood projects and projects outside. I don't know why it so happens to us when we're doing our own productions, but I think sci-fi projects doesn't have not worked as best in India because I think the scripts haven't reached that scope where it is so believable. Honestly, I have not seen an Indian sci-fi film where the script has excited me more than anything else or the storyline. It is still much more kiddish and it is still for, students to feel good about, nothing for the adults. And I think somewhere when it comes to our own productions, we somehow lack in the VFX sector. It still looks not real and it still looks kind of not up to the mark. You still can catch ke yaar ye to VFX hai. The moment you can catch ke ye to VFX kiya hai boss, so then you have failed. And I think somehow and unfortunately we are still not being able to hit that mark. I think what will happen, the first things first is a good sci-fi script which is just not about flying cars and stuff like that. It is just much more cerebral than that.
Madhura, there's another question by Vaishali Gautam, and she's coming to that point. We have discussed this, like global recognition of our films. Now, she's talking about the way we talk about Hollywood films, like Avengers. You take Avengers, or you take any film from Hollywood. Like we promote, the way we promote them on social media, or we create that buzz around them. If we start doing the same with our Indian films, like on a platform like social media platform where we have a global reach, it will help in some way to take our films into different countries or get some recognition at global level. So she's putting this idea and she's asking you like what you want to say on that.
Yeah, absolutely. As I said that we are in a social media boom right now. Like whatever, if we can say that this is the food I've had in the morning, why can't I say that this is the film I watched and I liked it so much and I would recommend all of you to watch it. Problem is we have a more of a tendency to criticize films than to just tell people to watch it and let them have their opinions about it. More often than not, that when we talk about films, we're talking about that, oh, it's a bad film, or I have a problem with this, or it tried doing that, but it failed. I would suggest, why don't we leave that to the other person to decide that they like the film or not? Why don't you first just try and say that I watched this film, I think it's interesting, good and bad, I'm not talking about. I think it's it's interesting, and I think definitely you should give a watch. And if there is some film that you really loved watching and you really connected to, and you're thinking about it even after 4 days, please do write about it, spread the word, use the hashtag. You know all the drill how to go about it.
Yeah.
Just, let others know. Be a cinephile who loves sharing films. Is like the way you share a good song that आज मैंने ये गाना सुना यार बहुत अच्छा लगा है, please सुन के देख. It's the same way. like यार मैंने आज ये film देखा है, it's beautiful, why don't you give a watch? And the more we start doing it and more we consciously start talking about Indian films per se, I am sure with the population that we have, and especially the younger population that we have in our country right now, who are social media addicts and who are social media smart people, it can make a huge difference. It can actually be a small movement of sorts if you just use it in a way.
Yeah. So,
there's a question. There's a question from Arpita Singh. Arpita wants to know: can you describe a time when someone disagreed with your artistic vision?
Yeah, it happens all the time. Me and my directors have artistic differences all the time, and I feel it's very healthy to have that. But it is now how you put your view across and how you both kind of reach a sense of consensus and you come to a decision for the greater good of the film. So whenever you're having a decision and when you're always having an artistic conflict, you have to understand that it's not just about you, and it is so not about the director. It's about the film. Will it affect the film, and is it the good and the bad of the film? So think that and finally put your decision across and be then rigid about it. And if you're so sure that yes, it's going to give that film that edge or it's going to be better for the film, please do stick to it. Like one of my favorite ways of resolving things is say we have this critical or this creative discussion that he or she of the director wants a certain shot and I don't feel it's working. So I kind of let him or her have their shot. I shoot the way exactly they want it. And then I tell them like, sit back, give me half an hour and let me take the shot the way I want. So now we have, so then it also gives the directors to point of views and they can literally see it. Even after that, they like it or don't, it's a different issue. But at least you have put your point across and you have given the raw material to the director and the editor for them to see and put it in the timeline and see if you were correct or if you were wrong. But yes, creative differences would come and it's a very healthy thing to have creative differences on set. But it's how you resolve it is your metal and your temperament, honestly.
I remember
Madhura, on a lighter note, not all directors would like to have a cinematographer like you, because they are so, we see like directors are so dominating, like they have so much of impact over filmmaking. So
no, obviously, so again, obviously there would be directors like that, but so you have to understand, I am an equal part of the film. So yes. I have my full right to say what I want or what I don't want. So yes, again, as I said, it's a director's prerogative to take my idea or not, but I will stick to it to the end of what I can, that no, this is my idea and I think this is good for the film and I should do it. You should have that space of discussion. And even if the director is actually a good director, he would at least listen to you, even if, not let you do it. Yeah. But the fact that he has listened to you means that he's a director who's open to your opinions, because you have to understand, again, as we have spoken about, that as a DOP's point of view is very important. He or she is literally translating that person's vision on screen. So, yes. So,
I remember an interview.
They need to be open to discussions. Yes,
I remember an interview of Rajamouli sir. He once said, the most interesting time while I'm reading a script or having a discussion is when I'm really having creative clashes with everyone sitting in the room. Everybody's telling me, ye galat hai, ye say this is right, this is wrong. I love it. This is what he said. So moving on to with this,
we have a question. We have a question in chat box. Like, any experience which you would like to share about Naxalbari as DOP?
Naxalbari as DOP.
Yeah.
Naxalbari was actually a huge fun shoot to do. So we shot a lot of action sequences and it was a very difficult shoot because almost every day we were shooting action and there was blast and shootings and all of that. The most the amazing thing that I remember of Naxalbari is that when we were shooting Naxalbari, the bullets that were used, they were actual rubber bullets. They were not dummies. They were not flashes.
Yeah.
Like it just doesn't the guns literally shot out bullets, and they were proper rubber bullets. But even on a close range, they can hit you really hard and they can actually
Yeah.
injure you. Okay. So the way we were shooting it, I was the one wearing a bulletproof vest. Okay, and the whole of the team was around because I'm operating the camera, and the whole team is 30 feet, 40 feet away from the safe range. They're on the safe range, and I am on literally on the line of fire. And there were literal moments when I used to get hit on my body with the bullets. I like I'm like getting hit while I'm getting shot, and then after the shoot would get over, they would come and you're like, "Are you okay? Are you not shot?" And like this is literally shooting on the line of fire. Like I'm getting shot at. So yeah, that was a huge fun thing to be. So yeah, I used to look like I'm going to war. I'm like wearing all bulletproof vests and everything, and literally, and especially those shots where the artists are literally shooting on the camera. Like they would just be shooting from here. I'm operating the camera as the bullets would go flying right behind my ear. So yeah, that was quite an adrenaline to shoot.
Must be very difficult experience. Madhura, we have another question. Like, what are your future projects, like which are coming, which we are going to see in coming days?
Right now, I am just going to start two feature films, both in Bangla. One is called Chong Chong and another is called Kishmish. So both of them are feature films that we are just prepping on. We'll be starting shoot in July. So that is there. And plus there is an Assamese film that I'm going to do, which I'm really excited about. The film is in Assamese language. So, and that will have all actors and everybody, and we'll be shooting it in Assam. So that also film is there. So I'm really excited about that. So yeah, these are the projects which are in line as of now.
Asha, are you there?
Yes, I am. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you're
There's
audible.
a series also, I think, which is about to come on Disney Hotstar.
Yeah,
in which
Ramdas
you have
film.
done.
Yeah. No, in Disney Hotstar, there is a different film right now. In Big Bang, there are a couple of big shots which are coming out. One is called Broken Film. One is called Rickshawala. So those are all slated to release on this app called Big Bang. They're launching in Kolkata now. So yeah.
Okay, now
Actually,
when we are moving to this online streaming platform, because I was having this one question, and before we concluded, I want to ask, like with the coming of this video streaming platforms and globalization of cinema also, with that, do you think these opportunities which are coming for young cinematographers or people who are aspiring to be cinematographer, these opportunities in coming future will help these cinematographers, or maybe it will create a certain kind of competition for them? What are your take on that?
See, competition would always be there because it's such a field. There would always be competition. But again, with this coming of streaming platforms, I think the one there who's just going to start and just getting to the field of it, they're going to have a very exciting times because the way of looking at films have changed. The way of looking at a visual have changed. It has become much more dynamic. Not to mention the fact that it has come from a huge 70-meter screen to a 2-inch screen. So the dialectics, the poetics, the politics of a shot design has also changed. So yes, it's going to be very exciting times. Obviously, there is going to be a lot of competition because because not the moment, because we have an open globalization of image making process and everybody can see everybody's work. You are now in the thick of things. There is no hiding your work and there is no feeling that I am so great, because everybody can see that what is happening in elsewhere in any corner of the country. So yes, the competition is going to get stiffer, but I am sure that it is going to also give us scope out to have much more exciting work, because everybody is now will try to translate films and translate visuals in their own different ways. So I think we are going to break conventions very strongly. And yes, it's going to be very, very, very interesting times to see how film goes. And as I said, I have a feeling that, we will be breaking conventions so much that we'll be bringing back conventions again, and we'll be going back to the organic way of looking at films. I don't know. I just have a feeling it is going to happen.
We are going to take that as a prophecy from you.
True, true.
And the master dramas of cinematography.
Madhura, we have a lot of many questions. I'll just take two questions now. One is my personal, which I'll take later. But one question has come from AG, some AG. It's is asking, could you mention 3 or 5 points for aspiring cinematographers who work full time in different fields but are part of media? I mean, they are not a cinematographer. I think this is what this person is asking. They're not cinematographers, fully cinematographers, but part-time they are working as a freelancing as a cinematographers, their work.
I think if you really want to go seriously into cinematography later on, try building up your show reels, try, shooting as much as possible. If you have your equipment, that helps a lot. Just go out and, shoot as much as possible, because this is such a vocation where there is no end of practice and there is no end of knowing. So the more you get comfortable with your visual making process, the better it's going to be. Then also this one, I think I always like telling to aspiring cinematographers that, make it a practice to study light. See, look at your room. If you're doing nothing on a certain lazy Sunday, just blankly look at your room and see how it changes from the morning till the night, and how the light changes and how it creates different modes, because nothing else teaches you lighting better than Mother Nature. She's already there. So the more you understand light, the more you understand how visual works, and it changes, the same situation changes differently, is a beautiful practice. Also have this practice, clicking a photo every day. That can be even if you're in your mobile phone, but just click one picture. Like, have that decision that I am not going to shoot more than one photo a day, but you will have to shoot one photo a day, and then you analyze this, that why did you take that shot? What was about it that you really like, that in a 24 hours you have just taken to have that one click? And when I say that, at that I mean that you cannot have multiple clicks on the mobile phone and you can delete 4 and say, "Ke ye fifth wala acha laga, ye rakh denge." No, you imagine you have a film camera and you have a ration of one exposure. So you expose just one photo a day and talk about it and understand why you have taken that shot. Because I think it's a huge practice that cinematographers should have, that they should get out of this notion of shooting unnecessarily. That shoot करते ही जाओ, उसमें से तो कुछ अच्छा निकाल लेंगे. Get out of that practice. Imagine that you don't have the resources to keep on shooting forever, and shoot just the amount of things you want and in just the way you want, and try to shoot it as correct as possible. Like, you cannot use filters on it, or if you want to use filters on it, you have to put it while you're shooting and shoot it. After shoot, you cannot do that. It's just a self practice. There is nobody to obviously judge you and catch you if you're cheating, but I think it's a very good practice for yourself, and it really helps in understanding visuals later on while you're working.
True. The next question I had was to give some piece of advice, which I have already given. So thank you, Madhura. Thank you so much. And since we have come to end of this whole discussion, there's one line that I just wanted to share with everybody. Madhura has won so many awards. She is known in the industry. People know her. She has shared stage with big cinematographers and big directors. I've seen so many of her conversations while she is giving interviews. So many things. But the first time I asked her, I don't know her personally. I asked her just once, can you just give us some time for this interview? And the reply that she gave me was, of course, if my knowledge can help anybody, yes, why not? Sure. And this really, means a lot, Madhura. Really means a lot that you came and you just talk so beautifully. So many doubts you have cleared of our students. Thank you so much for this, this session.
Thank you. Thank you so
thank
much.
you.
Thank you for having me, for thinking that I can help, and if I talk, it helps people. So yeah, thank you for having that belief in me, I guess.
Yeah. Now I request our director, Professor Dr. Sanjay Mohan Johri sir, to please say a few words about this webinar and also to give vote of thanks to Madhura. Sir, can we have you?
I think Asha has already given a vote of thanks. I'm just here for customary by the director. And it was a very interesting session. And I'm sure all those who were in the audience, for them it was a great learning. And as Asha said that if an artist says that if I can be of any help, that my discussion can be of any help in learning, yes, I am more than willing. And for that, we are thankful to you for coming to MIT School of Communication through this digital platform. And we look forward and we wish that you win many more awards. Thank you very much. And before we wind up, we'll just share a small clip about our institution, MIT School of Communication. Thank you very much, Madhura.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for having me, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Madhura, once again, and thank you to all the panelists